Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, September 17th. It's about 7:30 in the morning, and it's a beautiful 72 degrees outside. We've gotten quite a lot of rain the last few days, which is good. We needed it. We're still in a little bit of a drought condition, but that's kind of prevented me from doing an awful lot outside. However, the gardens are still doing well. I noticed this poor pitcher plant got definitely burned in the heat. It just got a little too hot for it. However, it didn't kill it. You can see it's got new growth coming. This may be my opportunity to go ahead and repot that. We'll have to see how the mood strikes me this coming week. The angel's trumpets, Brugmansia, are blooming again. This time the blooms look normal because there's no more 100-degree heat to fry the edges. Very fragrant right here. I just filled up the hummingbird feeder. I hear the hummingbirds about, but they haven't come back to the feeder yet. Apparently I have two now. One will come and sit on top of the little hook that I have it hanging from and just sort of sit there and dare the other one to come, and it'll fight off the other one. In the meantime, the bumblebees seem to be drinking it. However, they do go through one feeder a week, so somebody's drinking it. Everything here is doing well. My caladiums, it's time to uproot them and dry the bulbs and put something else in the pot. My roses are getting a second flush. Everything else is still doing fine. My Nepenthes pitcher plant is doing really well. Here you can see all the pitchers are clustered at the bottom, and they tend to wrap around things before the pitchers form. I noticed today we've got a bunch. Well, I've noticed before. I counted today 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there are 5 new branches forming, each one of which will hang down like this one has. When I put the Nepenthes in that pot, it was a very small plant, so it was an oversized pot for it. So I'm not even considering replanting until those other branches start to grow. It's kind of interesting the way they grow, because they send out these leaves and have this little scoop at the base, which eventually, here you see a little bit later along, turns into a pitcher. I do cut the old brown ones off, but the ones that are still half brown like this, I figure it's still giving nutrition to the plant, so I don't mess with it. I keep hearing the hummingbirds, but I don't see them yet. Here you can see my Venus flytrap is still growing, but you have to get really, really close to see that it is a Venus flytrap. This was a week of doing a lot of inside things. I'm being very careful going down this ramp because it's slick with water. I did go ahead and replant this central flower bed here. I put the marigolds in, tachites. Unfortunately, I noticed I had can't think of the name of them right now. But they're a flower that comes up in the fall. Spider lilies. And this happened just last night. They'll send up leaves in the spring and then these little sprouts in the fall. But something likes to eat the little sprouts and obviously chomp that one off. So next year it'll bloom. It's probably those large grasshoppers. I noticed here there was a little damage as well on my iachroma. This particular branch has been stripped. It'll come back. It's not going to kill it. This area is still doing fine. I have to admit, I don't think I'll be planting sweet potato vines next year in this spot. I do kind of like the look of this, so I'll probably still put that out because that does last. The vinca lasts through the summer heat. The spiderwort really looks nice. I especially like the way the dew beads up on the leaves. We're a little too early for the bees to come. I did notice that the satsumas, you can see here the satsuma fruit is coming on this tree. Not lots, but quite a few at the base of the tree. And something's been coming and drinking the water that I put in this little dish. And the fact that there's sand inside of it, because I clean the dish out when I fill it, means that I think Gato has been here because he likes to wallow in that little dish. Here you can see my Sedum spectabilis is about to bloom, although I guess that has a new name now. It's been reclassified. And I can't recall what it is off the top of my head. I think it's like telephonium or something like that. Reminds me of telephone. Bay tree, still doing fine. My bougainvillea the blooms have definitely stopped. However, others are still coming. I will winter those over, bringing them in whenever it's very cold outside. Yeah, I did a lot of work inside this week. I did wind up putting the starfish flower cactus out in the garage, and I'm glad I did because the second flower opened up and it stunk the entire garage up. I noticed today the flowers are about ready to fall off. Thank God for that. I'll be putting it back in my front porch again. But yeah, it brought me out into the garage more than I normally come, watching the progress of the flower. And one of the things I did this week was start some clearance. In the garage, I had all of my equipment from when I came home from the hospital a few years ago. I kept my wheelchair and my walker and my rollator and my quad canes, and I finally decided to get rid of all that stuff, so I packed it up, put it in the back of my car, and brought it to Goodwill. I'll figure let someone else get the good out of it, and if I come to need it again, I'll just buy new. Turns out they're not that expensive nowadays. You can get most of that stuff from Walmart. But it is good to know about Goodwill. When I came home from the hospital, we needed so much stuff that we went to Goodwill, and we got a tip from our CVS pharmacist. Well, not the pharmacist, the people that work there, that said you ought to go to Goodwill. And we did, and we got a lot of equipment from them. So whenever I can, I donate to them, especially old equipment like that they'll reuse. They'll give it to somebody else in need. So that took a day just cleaning out the garage closet out there. Oh, here's some of the fruits on the Pindo palm are starting to turn red, and they will eventually turn orange. So it was a week of decluttering. I kind of did the same thing in the house. I kind of looked at clothes and things like that, and anything that I didn't use or wear in the last at least 2 years, I donated. Because what's the sense of keeping all that stuff? It just takes up space. I see I need to straighten my snowball viburnum. It seems to be leaning away from the fence. It did grow to the top of the fence this year, so it pretty much doubled in height, so it grew very quickly. Well, you can see that boxwood apparently got either fried from the heat or has boxwood blight, one or the other. But to be truthful, I don't really need it there anymore because other things are taking over, so I probably won't. I may cut it down to the ground and see if it comes back. Here you can see one of my gingers. I don't remember what kind it is. I had a ginger collection many years ago, but when I started going away for the summers, it was kind of the end of my collection because they bloom in the summer and they're very high maintenance. In terms of the first frost, they usually die back, so you have to cut them down to the ground, dispose of all the trash, and I just didn't have time for all that. So I gradually reduced the number down to the easiest to take care of. Here you can see another patch of the ground palm that I planted. It likes it there. It likes to be ignored. Oh, I see my devil's trumpet, or datura, is in bloom. That's the seedling that I got, that I had let grow in one of the pots from the datura I bought last year. And it was a double, and it looks like it must bloom true or come true to the original plant, because this is a double. So I'm excited. Hot damn. I got a datura for free. Just let it seed itself from last year. And my pecan is doing pretty well. It's either a pecan or a hickory. I do notice pecan nuts around on the ground. I don't know where the squirrel, I'm imagining the squirrels are bringing them here. I don't know where they're coming from, but this tree is certainly in line with where I wanted it, and it's doing really well. And this is another angel's trumpet. Now that the heat has passed, its flowers are starting to lengthen a little, so it will be full pretty soon. This is all 1 year's growth. Of course, I bought it about 4 foot tall. And I'll probably, depending on the severity of the winter, if we don't get any really hard frosts, it may last. If not, I might have to cut it back to the ground. But I wait for the frost to come and nip it and cut it back after that. Back in here all is well. Ooh, stepped in a hole. Some kind of animal is digging holes here. I'm probably just about ready to put this dish garden out in the sun again. I bought these 3 hens and chicks. Well, actually, these are hens and chicks. These are something else that I bought that are just called succulents. So I'm not certain how hardy they'll be. So I'll probably bring this dish in. It's an old dish, which I usually bring in anyway. You can see cracks in it. And it's got crazing. So I don't let it freeze, which is beneficial both for the pot and the plants. But it's probably about ready to be moved out into the sun. This white angel's trumpet is about ready to bloom again. It's got lots of bloom buds there. Spanish moss is doing well. Well, let's go and sit in the corner here. Yeah, the excitement this week I heard yesterday in the neighborhood, that is the news of the neighborhood. Oh, goodness. Is that somebody's fence was defaced when they put the new sidewalks in. They put some fences had to be moved because people had put them too close to the edge of their property, or from what I was told from the guy in charge, on city property. And so they had to be moved in order to put the sidewalks in. And so those people whose fences were moved wound up getting new fences. And apparently someone was displeased with that, and one of the new fences was defaced with graffiti. First time in 30 years since I've lived here that there was graffiti on someone's fence. So I was rather disturbed. It's like, oh my gosh, the neighborhood's going downhill now that we put the sidewalks in. And as it turns out, I found out from other neighbors that it was the owner of the house themselves that was displeased with the new fence that was put in, because the old fence was painted black and the new fence was natural. Of course, they probably don't realize you don't really paint a new wood fence until it's aged for a few months. Not that the city was going to do it anyway, but so the disgruntled owner is the one that actually took the spray paint and spray painted all over their own fence, just to pretty up the neighborhood. It's colorful. I told one of my neighbors, it's just, think of it as artwork. Takes all kinds. Thank God for that neighbor, because she makes me seem more normal. So I'll leave you with that. It's been a good week for cleaning out stuff and getting ready for the fall. It was also a week where I changed my quilt around on the bed. I put the fall quilt out and redid all of my bedding. So it was a busy week. I hope y'all are doing well, and that your gardens are doing well, and you're gearing up for the fall. Have a good day. See you next week.